The scream came from the riverbank. It was a sound that didn't belong to the living. Loud, piercing, and full of pain. By the time people from the village ran there with lamps and torches, they found Femi's slippers floating gently on the surface of the dark river. But Femi himself was gone. No ripple. No struggle. Just gone. They said he had dreamt of the same river for 3 nights before he vanished. He told everyone in the compound that the water in his dream called his name softly, like a mother calling her lost child. Nobody believed him. Now, the only thing left of him was that pair of blue slippers and the echo of his last words. "It's calling me again." Before we continue, please like and subscribe, and stick around till the end, because this story will shock you to your bones and remind you why some dreams are never just dreams. The story begins in a small village called Igbadu, surrounded by thick forests and crossed by a slow, calm river that glowed silver under the moon. In that village lived a 22-year-old young man named Femi, tall, strong, but always lost in thought. He worked as a carpenter's apprentice, and everyone loved him for his kindness. But lately, something strange had taken over Femi. He would wake up drenched in sweat, whispering things about a river, about voices, about something waiting for him beneath the water. His mother, Mama Ronk, noticed how he would sit at the door at night staring toward the river path. She would shout his name, and he would blink as though returning from far away. "Femi, you're scaring me, oh," she said one night, handing him his supper. "What's all this talk about a river calling you? You better stop playing with evil." Femi sighed. "Mama, it's not evil. It feels peaceful. Like someone I know is waiting for me there." Mama Ronk dropped her spoon and faced him sharply. "Don't ever say that again. People drown because they think rivers are peaceful. Don't go near that place, do you hear me?" But it was too late. The river already had his name. That night, he dreamt again. He saw himself standing by the riverbank, the moon high and white. The water moved in slow circles, and then a woman's hand rose from beneath the surface. Her skin glowed faintly blue. Her voice was soft and sorrowful. "Come, Femi," she said. "You promised." He woke up gasping. His clothes were wet as if he had fallen into water. His bed was soaked. The next morning, his best friend, Tund, came by to walk with him to work. "Guy, your eyes dawn red," Tund said, laughing. "You know Sleep Baby Eye?" Femi shook his head. "I saw her again." "Who?" "The woman in the river." Tund froze. "You still daydream that thing?" "Femi, forget that nonsense, Jair. My uncle told me of one man that dreamed river. Next thing, dim fine and floating like wood." Femi looked at him with tired eyes. "I'm not afraid. I just need to know why she's calling me." Later that day, while cutting wood behind the carpenter's shop, Femi heard a faint humming sound, the same melody from his dream. It came from the direction of the river. He turned his head slowly, the saw shaking in his hand. The sound grew clearer, like a woman singing underwater. He dropped the saw. His feet began to move without his control. Step by step, he walked toward the river path. His mind screamed, "Stop!" but his body didn't listen. Then he heard someone shout from afar, "Femi, where you dey go?" It was Tund. He ran after him and grabbed his arm. Femi turned suddenly, eyes wide, breathing fast. "Let me go! I have to see her." "Who you want see?" Tund barked. "You dey craze? It's midday. Which river woman you dey talk about?" Femi blinked. The humming stopped. He looked around and realized he was standing just meters away from the water. He trembled. "Tund! I don't understand. I didn't even know I was walking." Tund dragged him back home, shaking his head. "You go see Baba Alamu tonight. That herbalist Sabi deliver people way river spirits stay call. You no fit play with that kind dream." That night, Mama Ronk wept quietly as she watched Baba Alamu tie a red cloth around her son's waist. "The water spirit has marked him," the old man said, his eyes deep and calm. "If he dreams again tonight, he must not answer the call. If he does, they will come for him. What can we do?" she begged. "Keep him away from the river for 7 days. And burn palm leaves in his room before he sleeps. If he survives the 7th night, he will be free." Everyone nodded, except Femi, who stared silently at the floor. The first night passed quietly. The second night too. But on the third, he woke up screaming again. "Mama! Mama! She's here!" She rushed into his room. His body was shaking violently. The red cloth had fallen off his waist. His eyes were rolled back, and his lips moved on their own. "The river is waiting," he muttered. "She's crying for me." Mama Ronk held him tightly. "You will not go. You will not." But suddenly, the window burst open. A cold wind swept through the room, blowing out the lamp. In the darkness, a faint sound of water splashing echoed, though the river was miles away. By morning, Femi seemed calm again. He apologized to his mother and promised not to leave the compound. She believed him. But that evening, while everyone prepared for dinner, Femi quietly stepped out of the house and began walking toward the river again. Tund, who lived nearby, saw him from his window. "Femi!" he called out. But Femi didn't turn back. He kept walking slowly, as though in a trance. By the time Tund ran after him, he was already gone, swallowed by the mist rising from the water. On the bank, only his slippers remained. And deep inside the river, something stirred, something that whispered his name again, but this time not gently. "Femi!" The entire village of Igbata gathered by the river the next morning. The sun had barely risen, but word had spread like wildfire. Femi, Mama Ronk's only son, had disappeared. His slippers were found by the riverbank, the same way others before him had been found. "Ah! I told you!" shouted one old woman named Mama Funk, her voice trembling. "Once the river calls your name in a dream 3 times, there's no escape. He's gone to join the ones beneath." Mama Ronk was kneeling in the sand, crying so hard that her voice broke. "My son! My only son!" she wailed. "He said he wouldn't go. He promised me." Tund stood beside her, his eyes red from tears and guilt. "It was my fault," he muttered. "I should have followed him that night. I heard the wind, I heard something, but fear held me." The village elders arrived soon after. Baba Olaranfimi, the oldest among them, stepped forward and spoke in a trembling but firm voice. "No one must go near this river again after sunset. This is not the first time it has taken someone, and it won't be the last if we don't act fast." A young woman from the crowd shouted, "But Baba, why does the river take people? Why only those who dream of it?" The old man sighed deeply. "Long ago, a woman drowned here while trying to save her child. Her spirit never left. She was called a dunny. The elders before us said the gods refused to take her because her soul was not at peace. Since then, she has searched for those with pure hearts to join her in her sorrow." The crowd gasped. Some crossed themselves. Others began to whisper prayers under their breath. But Mama Ronk wasn't listening. She stood up suddenly, wiping her tears. "Then I will go and bring back my son, dead or alive." The crowd erupted. "No, you can't. You'll die too. Don't do it, Mama Ronk." But she didn't care. That night, she gathered a small oil lamp, tied her wrapper tightly around her waist, and started walking toward the river. Tund saw her from afar and ran to meet her. "Mama Ronk, please! Baba Alamu said no one should go near that place." She turned to him, her face pale but fierce. "Then you help me, or you get out of my way. That river took my only child. I will not sleep while it swallows him in silence." Tund swallowed hard, fear mixing with loyalty. "Then I'm coming with you." The moon was bright that night, full and heavy. The river looked like melted silver. The air was thick and strange, too still for comfort. As they approached the bank, Tund's lamp flickered violently. "Something's not right," he whispered. "The air, it's cold." Mama Ronk stepped forward, clutching her wrapper. "Femi!" she shouted into the darkness. "Femi, it's your mother. Please answer me." Only the sound of water replied. Then, faintly, a voice came from across the river, soft, trembling, but clear. "Mama." Tund froze. "Did you hear that?" She nodded slowly. "Femi? "Mama," the voice repeated. "I'm here." Her eyes widened with desperate hope. "My son! My son! Where are you?" Tun grabbed her arm. "Wait! That voice doesn't sound right." But she was already running toward the edge. The lamp fell from her hand and rolled into the sand. Suddenly, the river began to ripple. Waves rose without wind. The water glowed faintly blue, the same light Femi had described before. And then they saw her. A woman's figure rose slowly from the river, water dripping from her long hair. Her eyes were large and glowing. She looked both human and not. She wore a flowing cloth made of mist and foam, her feet invisible beneath the surface. "Mama Ron," she said softly, her voice echoing through the air like a sad song. "You came for him." Mama Ronk fell to her knees, trembling. "Please, I beg you. Give me my son back. Whatever he did, forgive him. He was only a child." The woman smiled sadly. "He did nothing wrong. He belongs here now. He kept his promise." "What promise?" Tun shouted, stepping forward despite the fear that clutched his chest. The spirit turned her gaze toward him. "Long ago, before he was born, his father made a vow at this river to give his first son to the water if his dying wife survived childbirth. The river kept its side of the bargain. Now it has come for what was promised." Mama Runt gasped, her body shaking violently. "No, no! That can't be true. My husband never told me." The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. "The river remembers every word spoken in desperation. It always comes to collect." The water began to swirl around her, as though boiling from within. Tun pulled Mama Runt back. "We have to go. Now!" But she refused. "If it wants someone, it can take me instead," she screamed. The spirit tilted her head, her eyes softening. "Love that deep is rare among mortals." She raised her hand, and the water began to rise like a tall wall between them and the shore. "But every promise has a price." Before they could move, a strong current swept around their feet. Tun tried to grab Mama Ronk's arm, but she slipped. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a wave crashed, and both of them vanished beneath the water. The next morning, the villagers found Tun unconscious on the sand, coughing up river water. His eyes were wild with terror. He pointed toward the water, shaking uncontrollably. "She took her! She took Mama Ronk!" Everyone gasped. Baba Alamu came running. "Did you see her? The spirit?" Tun nodded weakly. "Yes, and she said she'll come again. The river isn't done." The crowd grew restless. "Huh? Again? What else does she want?" Tun's voice dropped to a whisper. "She said there's still another promise left unpaid." The wind picked up suddenly, and the river gave a long, low groan, like something alive and watching. For days after that night, the whole of Igbidu village was gripped with fear. Children were forbidden to go near the river, and even the fishermen refused to cast their nets. The air felt heavy, as though the spirit's presence lingered everywhere. Tun couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing woman, the way she looked at Mama Ronk before the water swallowed her. The image wouldn't leave him. The villager said he was lucky to have survived, but Tun didn't feel lucky. He felt cursed. One afternoon, as he sat alone under the big almond tree near the square, Baba Alamu, the village herbalist, approached him. "My son," the old man said quietly, "you've been silent since that night. What troubles your heart?" Tun looked up, his face pale. "Baba, she said there's still another promise left unpaid. What did she mean?" Baba Alamu sighed heavily. "I feared this would happen. There is more to the story than anyone told you." He sat beside Tun, his walking stick buried slightly in the sand. "Many years ago, before you and Femi were born, there was a great famine. The river dried up, the crops died, and the people suffered. Femi's father, Adewale, came here every day, begging the river for mercy. He promised everything, goats, yams, even his own bloodline, if the river would bring rain again." Tun swallowed hard. "So the rain came?" "Yes," Baba Alama nodded. "And when his wife conceived soon after, he thought the river had blessed him. But a promise made in the presence of water is never forgotten. Femi was marked before he took his first breath. Tun clenched his fists. Then it's not fair. He didn't make that promise. His father did. Baba Alamu's eyes were sad. The river doesn't care about fairness, my son. Only balance. Just then, one of the elders, Baba Olaranfimi, hurried toward them. Baba Alamu, come quickly. Something is happening again. They ran to the riverside, and what they saw froze the entire crowd. Right there, floating on the river's surface, was Mama Ronk, alive. Her body drifted gently toward the shore. People screamed and began to run backward, fearing it was her spirit. But Baba Alamu stepped forward and called out, "Bring her out carefully. She still breathes." Tun was among the first to wade in and drag her to land. Her skin was cold, her eyes half open. Water dripped from her hair, and she coughed weakly. "Mama, you're alive!" Tun shouted, tears flooding his eyes. She turned her head slowly toward him, her voice faint and strange. "The river, let me go!" But it gave me a message. The crowd fell silent. Baba Alamu knelt beside her. "Speak, my daughter. What did the river say?" She opened her eyes fully now. "It said the debt is not yet paid. It wants blood from the same line. Femi's blood opened the door, but it will only close when the one who made the promise is brought to the water." Everyone gasped. "But Adewale is dead," a villager shouted. Mama Ronk shook her head slowly. "No, he's not." Baba Alamu's face went pale. "What do you mean? He died in the city 10 years ago." Her lips trembled. "That's what he wanted everyone to believe. He ran. He knew this day would come. He hid from the river's call, but it has found him again." The villagers began murmuring. "So the spirit wants the father, not the son?" Mama Ronk nodded weakly. "Yes, and if we don't bring him before the next full moon, the river will come for every firstborn in Igbudu." The crowd erupted into chaos. Mothers clutched their children. Men shouted, "We must find Adewale!" But no one knew where he was. That night, the elders gathered under the big Irako tree to discuss what to do. Tun was there too. He had refused to leave Mama Ronk's side, sleeping outside her hut. When Baba Alamu entered the circle, all eyes turned to him. "The spirit's warning is not an empty threat," he said grimly. "If we delay, more will die. We must send people to the city to find Adewale before the next full moon." Tun stood up. "I'll go. Femi was like my brother. I can't sit here and wait while the river plans to take more lives." Baba Olaranfimi nodded slowly. "You are brave, my son. But be careful. The river's mark follows those who have seen its spirit. You are not safe either." "I don't care," Tun said firmly. "If finding Femi's father will end this curse, then I'll go." 2 days later, he packed a small bag, said goodbye to Mama Ronk, and set out for the city. Before he left, Baba Alamu gave him a small charm, a black stone tied with red thread. "Keep this close to your heart," the old man said. "It will hide you from the river's eyes, but only if your soul remains pure. Do not lie. Do not steal. Do not shed innocent blood." Tun nodded and began his journey. The city was nothing like Igbudu. Loud, crowded, and full of strangers. He spent days asking around, visiting bus parks, and sleeping in cheap lodges. Every night, he dreamt of water. Sometimes calm, sometimes rough, but always calling. On the 5th night, he found a clue. An old driver at a mechanic workshop said, "Ah, that name, Adewale, I remember him. He used to fix old radios here before he vanished." Said something about running from his past. Tun's heart raced. "Where did he go?" The driver scratched his beard. "He went to a place near the edge of town, where the abandoned quarry is." "But boy," he leaned forward, lowering his voice, "don't go there at night. Strange things happen around that place. People hear water flowing when there's no river nearby." Tun froze. Water where there was no river. That night, he followed the direction the driver gave him. The path was narrow, filled with tall grass and the distant croak of frogs. The moon hung low, and a strange mist curled around the ground. He found an old wooden hut near the quarry, its roof half collapsed. A faint light flickered inside. Tun approached carefully, his charm warm against his chest. He knocked once. No answer. He pushed the door open. Inside, a frail man sat by a lantern, muttering to himself. His hair was gray, his eyes hollow. But Tun recognized him instantly. Femi's face was in that man's features.
Adewale?
Tun whispered. The man looked up sharply.
Who are you? How did you find me? I'm Tun from Igbadu. I came on behalf of your family. The river has come for your son.
Adewale's eyes filled with terror.
No, not again. I did what I had to. I begged it to save my wife. I didn't mean. The river doesn't care.
Tun interrupted.
It said it wants you now.
The man stood, trembling.
It won't stop. I've run for years, and still, I hear the water in my dreams. It calls me every night.
He held his head and began to weep.
I hear it now, even when I'm awake.
Suddenly, there was a sound, faint but unmistakable. The gentle rush of flowing water inside the hut. Tun's heart stopped. He looked down. Water was seeping through the floorboards, spreading across the dirt floor, circling their feet. Adewale whispered,
It has found me.
Then the lantern went out. The darkness inside the hut was total, the kind that swallowed sound and breath. The only thing Tun could hear was the slow, eerie slosh of water creeping up around their ankles.
Adewale,
he shouted, groping for the lantern.
Where is it coming from?
But the man didn't answer. He was standing frozen, his eyes wide open, staring at something only he could see. His lips trembled as he whispered,
She's here.
A cold wind swept through the room even though every window was shut. The water rose higher, swirling in tight circles around their legs. Then, from the far corner of the hut, a soft, female voice began to hum. It was the same tune Tun had heard before, the same one that had called Femi. The voice was beautiful and sorrowful, like a mother singing to a child she could never hold again.
Come to me,
it sang.
You promised.
Tun felt the charm around his neck burn hot. He held it tightly and shouted,
Stop! You can't take him! He's ready to make it right!
The voice paused. Then, out of the darkness, the woman appeared, dripping wet, glowing faintly blue, her eyes full of an ancient sadness. It was her, the river spirit. Adewale fell to his knees, crying,
Please forgive me! I only wanted to save my wife. She was dying. My heart couldn't bear to lose her.
The spirit looked at him for a long time. Her hair floated around her, as if she were still underwater.
You broke the law of balance. You took life without giving what was promised.
Tun stepped forward, trembling but firm.
Then take him, and let the rest of the village go. Haven't enough people suffered?
The spirit turned her gaze to him, her expression unreadable.
You are brave, boy, but you do not understand. The debt is not paid by death alone. It is paid by understanding the pain you caused.
She lifted her hand, and the room around them began to shimmer. The hut dissolved, replaced by an image of a younger Adewale kneeling beside a dying woman, his wife, heavily pregnant and gasping for breath. The river beside him shimmered like glass.
Save her,
Adewale begged in the vision.
I'll give anything, even my first son.
The spirit's voice echoed through the air.
You made your choice. The river gave, and now it collects.
The image faded. Adewale wept loudly, holding his chest.
I was desperate. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was only words.
The spirit leaned closer.
Every word spoken before the waters is eternal.
The hut reappeared. The water now reached Tun's waist. He could barely keep his balance.
Please,
he shouted.
What can we do to end this? There must be a way.
The spirit stared at him for a moment, then slowly turned toward Adewale.
There is one way, but it comes with sacrifice.
Adewale looked up weakly.
Anything. I'll do anything.
She stretched her hand toward him.
You must give back what you took, the gift of life. The boy's spirit remains trapped beneath the current. You must walk into the river and call his name until he answers. Only then will both your souls be free.
Tun's eyes widened.
That's suicide.
The spirit's eyes softened.
No, it is justice.
Before Tun could protest, the water surged upward, forming a narrow path that led straight out of the hut and into the forest, the same direction as the river. The wind howled like voices chanting from the trees. Adewale stood shakily, tears streaming down his face.
Tell them I'm sorry. For everything.
He began walking toward the path. Tun grabbed his arm.
You don't have to do this. Maybe there's another way.
Adewale looked back at him and smiled faintly.
If I don't, no one in Igbadu will sleep again. My son deserves peace. My wife deserves forgiveness.
He tore free from Tun's grip and disappeared into the mist. Tun stumbled after him, shouting his name, but the mist thickened until he could barely see his own hands. The sound of rushing water grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Silence. When the mist cleared, Tun found himself standing alone at the riverbank. The moon hung low above the water, glowing red. The surface was completely still. No ripples, no waves. Then he saw them, two figures standing far out in the middle of the river. Adewale and Femi. The boy was holding his father's hand. Both of them were smiling faintly, their bodies shimmering like moonlight on glass.
Go home,
Femi's voice whispered across the water.
It's over.
Before Tun could reply, the river began to glow brighter and brighter until it became too painful to look at. When he opened his eyes again, the figures were gone. The water was calm, peaceful. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face.
Thank you,
he whispered. By the time he made it back to Igbadu the next morning, the air in the village felt different. Lighter. Children were laughing again. Birds sang. For the first time in weeks, the river flowed without that eerie hum beneath it. Mama Ronk was sitting outside her hut, alive and healthy, pounding yam. When she saw Tun, she stood up quickly.
Tun! You came back?
He smiled weakly and nodded.
It's done. He's gone. Both of them.
She covered her mouth as tears welled up in her eyes.
So he finally made peace.
Tun nodded again, his voice breaking.
He did? They both did.
That night, the villagers gathered at the riverside with lamps and candles. Baba Alama poured libation and prayed aloud.
Let this river be free. Let no other name be called by its voice again.
As the crowd echoed,
Amen.
A cool wind brushed through the air, rippling across the water's surface like a final goodbye. But as the lamps flickered, Tun felt something cold against his neck. He looked down. The charm Baba Alama had given him was gone. In its place, a small drop of water rested on his chest, shining faintly blue. He stared at it, unsure whether to be afraid or grateful. Then, from somewhere deep within the river, he thought he heard a voice whisper softly, like a sigh carried on the wind.
Thank you, Tun.
For a few weeks, peace returned to Igbadu. The river no longer whispered at night, and no strange dreams haunted the villagers. People started to bathe and fetch water again without fear. It felt like a dark chapter had closed. But for Tun, the peace was not complete. Ever since that night, his sleep was restless. Every time he closed his eyes, he found himself back at the river, standing on the bank, watching two figures disappear into the mist. Sometimes he heard their voices calling softly. Other times, he felt the water rise around his feet. He tried to ignore it. He worked in the fields, helped Mama Ronk repair her leaking roof, and even joined the young men at the market square to rebuild the fishing boats. But no matter what he did, the pull toward the river grew stronger. One night, he woke up drenched in sweat. The moonlight poured through his window, and faintly, he could hear it again, the sound of water, though the river was far away. Then a whisper came.
Tun!
He sat up, heart pounding. The voice was soft, familiar, almost gentle.
Tun!
He rubbed his eyes and looked around. No one. Just silence. But then, a chill breeze blew through the room, carrying with it the faint smell of wet earth and lilies, the smell of the river. He got up and stepped outside. The entire village was asleep, the night calm. But somewhere deep inside him, he felt that something wasn't right. At dawn, he went straight to Baba Alamu's compound. The old man was grinding herbs when Tund arrived, looking worried.
"Aw, my son,"
Baba Alamu said, raising his head.
"you look troubled again."
Tund sighed heavily.
"It's starting, Baba. The dreams, the whispers, the river still calls me."
The old man frowned.
"Describe what you hear." "It's Femi's voice and his father's. But it's different now. It doesn't sound like a cry for help. It sounds like a warning."
Baba Alamu's face darkened.
"A warning?"
Tund nodded.
"Last night, I heard him say, 'Don't let it begin again.' I don't understand what that means."
The herbalist stood up slowly.
The river may have found its peace, but spirits do not rest if a new disturbance rises." "What kind of disturbance?"
Tund asked. Before Baba Alamu could reply, a young boy ran into the compound, panting.
"Baba, come quickly! Something is happening at the river."
They both rushed out. When they reached the riverside, a crowd had already gathered. Everyone was pointing and murmuring. At the center of the crowd, a young girl, no more than 12, stood trembling. Her mother held her tightly.
"She says she dreamt of the river,"
the woman cried.
3 nights in a row."
A heavy silence fell over the crowd. The villagers exchanged fearful looks. Baba Alamu's staff hit the ground hard.
"This cannot be."
Tund's heart sank.
"But I thought the curse ended."
The old man turned to him gravely.
"It did, unless someone disturbed the water."
He knelt near the riverbank, scooping a handful of water and letting it drip through his fingers. Then he froze. His hand began to tremble slightly.
"The color,"
he whispered.
"Look at it."
The water wasn't clear. It shimmered faintly blue, the same glow that surrounded the spirit. The crowd gasped and stepped back. The girl began to cry.
"Mama, I don't want to go. I don't want to dream anymore."
Her mother clutched her tighter, sobbing.
"Please, Baba Alamu, save my child."
The old man stood and turned to the people.
"No one must touch this river until I find the cause. Spirits do not haunt without reason. Someone has called the river again."
He turned to Tund.
"You are still marked by the water, my son. You must help me uncover what awakened it."
Tund nodded slowly.
"Tell me what to do."
That night, Baba Alamu prepared a ritual. He placed 3 clay lamps by the river and gave Tund a calabash filled with river sand and crushed kola nuts.
"This will let us speak to the water. But remember, it only reveals truth to those whose hearts are steady."
Tund sat beside him as the night deepened. The moon was half hidden by clouds, and the air was still. Baba Alamu began to chant softly, his voice rising and falling like waves. He sprinkled powder into the water. Ripples spread outward, glowing faintly under the moonlight.
"Show us who has awakened you,"
he called.
"Let the truth appear before our eyes."
The river shimmered. Then, to Tund's shock, an image appeared on the water's surface, clear as a reflection. It was the face of a man, young and unfamiliar, wearing a strange red necklace. Behind him, the river looked wild, as though boiling.
"Who is that?"
Tund whispered. Baba Alamu frowned deeply.
"That is not from our village. That necklace belongs to the fishermen of Aroa, a town down the stream. They worship the water goddess there. If they have tried to summon her for power, they may have disturbed her rest."
Tund's fist tightened.
"Then we go to Aroa."
The old man nodded slowly.
"Yes, but you must not go alone. Take this."
He handed Tund a small pouch.
"When the river calls again, open this and scatter it into the air. It will reveal hidden spirits."
By sunrise, Tund set out with 2 villagers who volunteered to go with him. The road to Aroa was long and thick with fog. By evening, they arrived at the town, a quiet place built right along the river's edge. The people of Aroa were friendly, but their eyes carried something secret. At the marketplace, an old fisherman recognized the red necklace when Tund described it.
"Ah, you mean Duroji. He's the one who built a shrine on the river last week. Said he wanted to bless the waters for better fishing." "Where can I find him?"
Tund asked quickly.
"His hut is just near the bend." the fisherman said. But be careful. He's been acting strange since he built that shrine. When they arrived, the sound of chanting filled the air. Duroji knelt by a small altar beside the river, his body covered in white chalk marks. Candles surrounded him, flickering wildly in the wind. He didn't notice them at first. He was muttering to himself, "Give me power. Give me wealth like the men of the city." Tun's heart raced. "Stop!" he shouted. "Do you know what you're doing? You're awakening something that was finally at peace." Duroji turned slowly. His eyes were wide and strange, glowing faintly blue. "Peace?" he hissed. "Peace doesn't feed my family. The river gives, and I will take." Then the water behind him began to churn violently. The villagers who came with Tun screamed and backed away. The air filled with the sound of rushing waves even though the river had no wind. The candles blew out, and a familiar humming rose from the water, low and haunting. "No," Tun whispered. "Not again." The water began to glow. The river spirit had awakened once more. And this time, her voice sounded angry. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The once calm river now surged like a beast unleashed. The water rose in violent waves, glowing blue beneath the dark sky. Duroji stood at the edge, his arms stretched wide, laughing like a madman. "You see," he shouted over the roar. "She's answering me. The river has chosen me. Chosen you for death." Tun yelled back, running forward. "You don't know what you've done." But Duroji didn't stop. The blue light spread from the river, wrapping around him like living fire. He screamed, but it wasn't a scream of pain. It was ecstasy, as if the power itself was filling him. His eyes shone brighter, and his voice changed, deep and echoing. "She gave me strength. You don't understand her gift." Baba Alima's pouch suddenly felt heavy in Tun's pocket. His hands trembled as he opened it, remembering the old man's words. "When the river calls again, scatter it into the air." He threw the powder upward. A burst of wind swept through the area, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stop. The fog cleared, and Tun saw it, an enormous shadow standing behind Duroji, tall and terrible, shaped like a woman, but made entirely of water. Her face was hidden, but her eyes glowed like burning coals beneath the river's surface. It was her, the river spirit. But this time, she looked different. Angrier. Wilder. "Duroji," she said, her voice thunderous, echoing across the water. "You dared to call me with greed?" Duroji fell to his knees, trembling. "I only wanted your blessing. I gave you offerings, You disturbed my rest." The spirit roared. "You turned sacred peace into hunger." The waves crashed violently. The villagers screamed and ran, but Tun stayed, frozen in horror. He could feel the earth vibrating beneath his feet. The spirit turned her gaze toward him. Her voice softened slightly. "You again. The boy of balance." Tun swallowed hard. "Please, he didn't know. Spare him, I beg you. The curse already took too many lives. Let this end." The spirit studied him. "You speak of balance. Then let balance be restored." She raised her hand, and Duroji screamed. The blue light that had surrounded him was pulled back violently, sucked into the water like smoke. His body went limp and fell forward into the river. For a moment, his reflection flickered, and then he was gone. The water calmed instantly. The blue glow faded. The only sound left was the soft lapping of waves against the shore. Tun stood there, chest heaving, heart pounding. He wanted to cry, to scream, to thank someone, but the spirit was still watching him. Her expression softened. "The river gives and takes. It remembers those who honor its power, and punishes those who defy it. Tell your people this truth. No one must call my name again." Tun nodded shakily. "I will." The spirit turned slowly, her form dissolving into mist and moonlight. "Your path is not done yet, Tun," she whispered. "The mark you bear ties you to the water. When the next storm comes, you must choose." "Choose what?" he called out. But she was gone. The river was calm again, as if nothing had happened. Tun fell to his knees and buried his face in his hands. He could still feel the burn of her words deep inside him.
The mark you bear, you must choose. By morning, he and the villagers returned to Igbidu. They told the elders everything about Duroji, the shrine, and the river's warning. The news spread quickly, and once again, fear settled over the village. Mama Ronk was waiting when Tund returned. She rushed to him, tears in her eyes.
My son, I thought I'd lost you again.
He hugged her tightly.
It's over, Mama. For now.
Baba Alama joined them, leaning on his staff.
You have done what even elders feared to do. The spirit's anger is quiet, for now. But her words trouble me. The mark she spoke of, do you still carry it?
Tund hesitated. He pulled open his shirt. There, on his chest, where the charm had once been, was a faint blue scar glowing softly beneath his skin. The old man frowned deeply.
That is not a wound. It is a bond. You are now a bridge between the land and the river.
Tund's eyes widened.
What does that mean? It means,
Baba Alama said gravely,
that when the river calls again, it will call you first. The peace of the water depends on you now.
Tund felt his stomach twist. He didn't want to believe it, but deep down, he already knew it was true. Over the next few days, life in Igbidu returned to normal again. The children played by the river's edge. The women fetched water without fear. The men went fishing. But every evening, as the sun sank behind the trees, Tund found himself drawn back to the riverbank. He would stand there quietly, watching the rippling water. It looked ordinary now, harmless even, but he knew better. He could feel something beneath it, like a heartbeat, faint but steady. One evening, as he sat on a fallen log, staring at the fading light, a small ripple appeared in the water, even though there was no wind. A voice, soft and distant, floated across the surface.
You are not free yet, Tund.
He froze.
Who's there?
Silence. Then the faint sound of laughter, light, sad, familiar. It was Femi's voice. Tund's chest tightened.
Femi?
The river rippled again, and this time, a faint image appeared, Femi, standing knee-deep in water, smiling sadly.
You did well,
he said quietly.
But the balance is fragile. When the storm comes, you must protect the river, or it will consume everything. What storm?
Tund asked, stepping closer to the edge.
Tell me!
But the image was already fading, the water growing still again. Tund fell to his knees, gripping the sand. He didn't understand, but he knew one thing. Whatever storm Femi spoke of, it was coming. And this time, it wouldn't be just one life the river would claim. The storm came 3 nights later. It started with a strange silence. The birds stopped singing, the wind held its breath, and the air felt thick, heavy with warning. Then, in the middle of the night, thunder cracked across the sky, loud enough to wake the entire village. Tund sat up immediately, his heart pounding. Through his small window, he saw flashes of blue lightning cutting across the clouds. But something about the lightning was wrong. It wasn't striking the sky. It was striking the river. He jumped out of bed and ran outside. The rain hadn't started yet, but the river was already raging like a boiling pot. Waves crashed violently against the banks, and a deep, humming sound echoed beneath the thunder, a sound he'd heard before. Mama Ronk came running from her hut.
Tund! What's happening?
He grabbed her hand.
Go inside, Mama. It's not safe out here.
But before they could move, the river exploded upward. A massive wave rose, glowing blue, and from within it, a figure emerged, not the calm, sorrowful spirit from before, but something darker. The river woman's form towered above them, her eyes burning like cold fire.
The balance is broken,
she cried, her voice shaking the ground.
The greed of men has angered the waters again.
Tund's heart pounded.
No! I stopped Duroji. The river should be at peace.
The spirit turned toward him.
Peace cannot last when hearts still crave what they do not deserve. Another has defiled the water, far beyond your village.
Lightning flashed, revealing the terrifying truth. From every direction, smaller rivers and streams flowed backward, merging, swelling, feeding into Igbidu's river. It was as if the whole land's water was gathering in one place. Baba Alamo appeared through the storm, his robe drenched, his staff glowing faintly red.
Tund!
He shouted.
The prophecy, the storm he spoke of, it's now. The rivers have joined. Only you can seal the path. What do I do?
Tund screamed over the wind. The old man pointed toward the water.
The mark on your chest, it's not a curse. It's a key. You must return it to the heart of the river. But if you go in, you may never return.
Tund froze.
You mean I have to? Yes.
Baba Alamo shouted.
The spirit chose you for this. If you don't, the river will swallow every soul in Igbadu, maybe beyond.
Mama Ron clutched his arm, crying.
Tund, please don't. You've done enough. Let the elders handle this.
He turned to her, tears streaming down his face.
Mama, this is what Femi meant. The storm. He was warning me.
The river spirit lowered her gaze toward him.
Your courage binds the land and water. Only one heart can silence the storm.
Tund looked back at his mother.
Tell them I did it for all of us. No,
she screamed.
Tund!
But it was too late. He ran straight into the rain, straight toward the raging river. The wind howled, the lightning flashed, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. When he reached the bank, he tore off his shirt. The blue mark on his chest glowed brightly, pulsing like a heartbeat.
Spirit,
he shouted.
Take me if you must, but let my people live.
The river roared in response. He stepped into the water. It was cold, colder than death. But he didn't stop. He walked deeper and deeper until the waves covered his shoulders. The spirit's eyes followed him as he reached the center of the river, the glow from his chest lighting the water around him. He placed his hand over the mark, took one deep breath, and whispered,
For peace.
A blinding light burst across the sky. The thunder stopped. The rain froze midair. For a moment, everything was still, suspended in silence. Then, slowly, the river began to calm. The waves sank. The glow faded. The wind softened. And then, the water went still, smooth as glass. From the river's center, a soft blue light rose, drifting gently upward into the sky. It was faint at first, then brighter, like a star being born. Mama Ronk and Baba Alamo watched from the shore, both crying silently. When the light faded, the storm was gone. The sky cleared. The moon shone again. The river was calm. But Tund was gone. For 3 days, the villagers searched. They combed the riverbanks, set boats, even prayed by the water. But there was no trace of him. Only peace, deep, lasting peace. Months passed. The river never raged again. No one dreamed of it. No one heard voices, and no one ever vanished. Fishermen caught more than they ever had. Crops flourished. Igbadu began to thrive again. But sometimes, on quiet nights when the moon hung full, villagers swore they saw a figure standing by the water, a young man with calm eyes, watching over the river. Mama Ronk would smile through her tears whenever she heard the stories.
That's my son,
she'd whisper.
He became the guardian of the river.
Years later, travelers who came through Igbadu told stories of a strange, gentle current that always flowed clear even when other rivers turned muddy. They said it was protected by a spirit of a young man, a bridge between humans and water. And whenever thunder rolled far away, the villagers would whisper his name in prayer.
Tund, keeper of the river, let our water stay calm.
Because some promises, once made in love and sacrifice, never fade, not even beneath the deepest waters. Moral of the story: be careful what you promise in desperation, for the world listens, even the waters. But above all, remember that courage and sacrifice can heal what fear and greed destroy. Before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it moved you. Tell us in the comments, what do you think happens to those who hear the river calling their name?